Hello everybody, I really had no plans on making this video, but since the other similar video that I did make to this has now been deleted, which I will be re-uploading, I'm going to go ahead and go right into this rabbit hole because see, yesterday I posted a video just going over a lawsuit that had been dismissed about 2 Chainz, Diddy, Jay-Z, and Rick Ross. Now they had all been sued, and the guy in the lawsuit, it seemed like maybe he was making a little bit of not so credible allegations and stuff like that. But girl, the way that video just was snatched off of YouTube so fast over a thing that usually they would give you an opportunity to fix, now I feel like I definitely need to go down this rabbit hole. So today we're going to be covering another lawsuit that has been dismissed in a similar way. Let me pull that right up. The reason the video got removed was because I was showing a public Pacer page, and if y'all saw the video, you saw that I did blur out everybody's address, but there was like one little address on screen for a couple seconds. Usually I would get the option to blur that part out, and that has been historically the case. But yesterday, that video was the first time in years to upload into YouTube that I've ever not had that ability to do that. And it's just screaming, it's shrieking cover up. So now I'm going to be covering every single one of these lawsuits, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop me. So let's get into the next one right now. One thing I will tell y'all is if you're one of my ops watching, which I know y'all do watch, if you want to stop me, if you want to make me stop talking about something, the way you can definitely make sure I'll never stop talking about it is to try and stop me in a way that I don't have any control over, to try and take away my voice. That's the way that you're going to make sure. Y'all made the list. Now y'all made the list. See the list? This list right here, taped to my computer, the research list, not a place you want to be. Not a place you want to be. Can promise you that. I ain't going to tell y'all the rest of the secrets. All right. So this case right here, also, I'm going to put up the disclaimer. This case has been dismissed. I'm not going to show y'all the Pacer page because I'm not trying to play games with these stupid people. But here's the lawsuit. It was filed in 2020. Again, it has been dismissed. I'll put the little disclaimer up. But let's just look down this 38 defendant list and see some familiar names. We have the 1953 Trust. We have Harvey Weinstein, Sean Carter, which is Jay-Z, Darren Endike, Richard Kahn, the Weinstein Corporation, Miramax, Walt Disney Company, Def Jam Recordings, Rock Nation, Universal Music Group, Beyonce Knowles, Kanye West, Terrence Thornton, Black Cube Limited, Vivendi, Dwayne Carter, John Luke Brunel, Young Money, Good Music, Shelley Massenberg Smith, David Boies, Robert Kelly, Milton Brown, Marcelo Claure, Sprint, Viacom, Virgil Abloh, Qatar Investment Authority, Tudor Saliba Corporation, Ghislaine Maxwell, Parkwood Entertainment, the City of New York, Sir Philip Green, Sony Entertainment, and a bunch of other people. Now, this case, like I said, has been dismissed. Now, what did these defendants allegedly apparently do? Well, it says that they all played criminal roles and that they intentionally concealed or withheld certain information. So what is the allegation here in paragraph 5? It says, over the course of decades, the defendants established a lucrative but sociopathic criminal enterprise where the defendants engaged in decades of traffic, assaults, and various abuses, including financial and economic exploitation, giving people substances for abduction, taking plaintiffs 1 and John Doe and Jane Doe. Okay, so I will say I've read this lawsuit before. And again, like I said, I wasn't even going to cover it. I had no intention of covering it. But the fact that this seems like an absolute and total cover up at this point, now I feel a public duty, to do this public service and bring this public information to you. Now, I will say, once we get a little bit more into this lawsuit, the lady, Charlene Latham, that's the plaintiff in this case, she's going to start making some pretty unbelievable claims, okay? Now, I just want to say that my opinion isn't necessarily the point of this video because I don't have much of an opinion on this. I will say at this point, there's almost nothing I wouldn't believe that these people do. If you told me that they buy people and them at the hostel hotel, girl, I would probably believe it. I would probably believe that they do the hostel or taken type of activities. I would believe it. But this video is not about what I believe. This video is not really about my opinion, although I will be injecting it from time to time. I'm not sure I fully believe everything that is said in this lawsuit, and that is not the purpose of bringing this video to you today. The purpose of bringing this video to you today is to show you yet another case from the public record, which someone made some outlandish allegations, which appear a little less outlandish today in the context of what we know, in the context of what we've seen with our own eyes with this leaked footage. Now, I do want to say very importantly, P. Diddy, I don't believe is mentioned in here, is he? Sean Combs? I don't think she mentions P. Diddy. So just want to be very, 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 very clear. These are the defendants. These are the people being sued. Now, could P. Diddy be one of these John Does 1 through 100? Perhaps, right? But he's not named here. But we do have Jay-Z mentioned here and the Harvey Weinstein and the Weinstein Company. And we do have this Maxwell, right? So that leads me to believe that a certain Epi is involved. Okay. So I do want to get into reading these allegations, but I feel like just because the last video literally already got deleted, I need to be very, very careful. That one will be coming back up. I'm just going to snip out that one part they took issue with. Don't worry. Don't you worry. But I do want to just say, y'all, the lawsuit has been dismissed as frivolous. The lawsuit has been dismissed as baseless. And we're going to get into some allegations that I am certainly not saying actually happened. I am literally just reading from this lawsuit, okay? But so far, it actually doesn't seem that far-fetched, right? On page 1, she says, over the course of decades, all these people have established a lucrative but sociopathic criminal enterprise where the defendants engaged in decades of human bleep, assault, and various abuses, including financial and economic exploitation, giving people substances so that they can abduct, aka kidnap the people, in taking plaintiffs number 1 and plaintiffs John and Jane Doe 1 through 10 hostage. Okay. Right now, before we move any further, this seems absolutely believable that these people would have perhaps been engaged in a trafficking and a drug enterprise. And these are similar allegations that are made against other people in the music industry. Now, innocent till proven guilty, and this particular lawsuit has been dismissed. But we are going to get into some more surprising allegations. It says, the defendants engaged in this criminal and sociopathic conduct as a form of specific criminal intentions designed as bleep, harassment, extortion, physical torture, psychological torment, and revenge, targeting plaintiff number 3 for her refusal to sell her child or children. They were trying to buy her child. I don't know if this is true. This woman could be out of her damn mind. She could be hallucinating. She could be lying. I don't know. Let's read further. When plaintiff number 3 refused to sell or allow the defendants in any capacity to abuse or financially exploit plaintiff number 1, who are these plaintiffs? These different plaintiffs. Okay. So the plaintiffs are Charlene Latham, that's number 1. And then we have David Latham is number 2. Tracy Latham is number 3. So Charlene, David, and Tracy. I think these might be her parents. I don't know. I think she does get into the relationships later. Let's read further. When plaintiff number 3, so that would be Tracy Latham. Okay. When plaintiff number 3 refused to sell or allow the defendants in any capacity, I guess her daughter Charlene, or any of her other children and grandchildren, the defendants began targeting the family for economic abuses and financial exploitation that not only consisted of drugging the minors, 4S trafficking, hostage taking, and related abuse, but also began exploiting the plaintiffs for thefts of trade secrets, intellectual property, and tortious interference with the plaintiff's career and economic opportunities. Now, this is interesting to me because it does kind of mirror what that other guy who sued, the Ross Walker guy, I'm going to put that video back up, the one that got taken down, but I'm going to put it back up. That lawsuit, the guy said some similar stuff. He said he was homeless and he was targeted by like Diddy and Jay-Z and them for his art, and that they exploited him and they were systematically racist against him, and that they basically used him and abused him for the trade secrets and stuff like that. Again, both of these cases have been dismissed as frivolous. I just thought it was worth looking back at them after learning what we now know about other things going on in the industry. This extensive scheme of the defendants was initiated by Jeffrey Bleep Steen. He's dead, but he's represented throughout this action by his estate, the 1953 trust as revenge. Okay, so it says that Jay Bleepstein initiated this extensive scheme out of revenge against the plaintiff. Number 3, which is Tracy Latham. Tracy agreed to out-of-court multi-million-dollar monetary settlement in the late 80s, early 90s to avoid a public criminal and civil prosecution for bleep abuse. Several of the plaintiff's children, plaintiffs 2 and 3, share 6 children together. Okay, so these two people up here, we talking about David and Tracy. David and Tracy have 6 kids together, and one of their kids is Charlene. All right, so Charlene is the first person that is listed here. So what they're saying is back in the 80s, 90s, and again, this could be not true. This was not proven in court in any way, but we have David and Tracy having kids. Charlene is one of them. The 1953 trust, when you see the 1953 trust, that means Bleepstein, with the island and all that. So she's saying that those two parents accepted some type of out-of-court settlement with Bleepstein back in the 80s, and they accepted a multi-million-dollar payment. And what was the payment for? Well, it was because this enterprise had apparently allegedly abused some of Tracy and David's children in a certain type of way. After misappropriating Leslie Wexner's money to pay the settlement, Jeffrey Bleepstein devised a scheme of revenge and recovery of the money by targeting the plaintiffs for giving them substances and fficking the children for continued abuse at his various around the world, where he was paid large sums by elite attendees of the salacious events and then used the money from abusing the plaintiffs to repay his debt to Wexner. Okay, so basically what she's trying to say, again, I don't know if this is true, but what she's trying to say is there was a big lump sum payment paid to her parents because this enterprise abused her parents' kids, including her. This big lump sum of money apparently came from Leslie Wexner.
Central Ohio businessman Les Wexner mentioned again in the latest round of unsealed documents related to the investigation into Jeffrey. We do want to stress appearing in the documents does not mean someone is connected to anything illegal, but for the first time, Epstein victim Victoria Giuffre says she did have sex with Les Wexner. Jeffrey was a millionaire known for associating with high-profile celebrities and billionaires and politicians, accused of exploiting dozens of girls for guests at his home. Girlfriend Ghislaine is currently serving a 20-year prison term for helping to recruit underage victims. The documents released are nearly 1,500 pages, with the name Wexner appearing 46 times. In 2019, Brad Edwards, a lawyer representing victims of Epstein, said he believed Wexner was not involved in the sexual proclivities of Mr. Epstein, saying, quote, "It's very seldom that many of the victims actually even met him or saw him. I do know that there's a lot of business ties to him, but other than receiving information about their business connection, I don't have any information to believe otherwise." NBC4 reached out to Wexner's spokesperson, who directed us to court documents from 2020, in which Wexner's lawyers wrote, Mr. Wexner was unaware of and was never a participant in any of the abhorrent behavior engaged in by Epstein against Epstein's victims. At one point, worked as Wexner's personal finance manager. A document on file in Franklin County shows was given power of attorney over much of Wexner's financial affairs in 1991. Following his 2019 arrest, Wexner released a statement through his business, L Brands, stating he had severed any ties to Epstein more than a dozen years earlier.
There was a big lump sum payment paid to her parents because this enterprise abused her parents' kids, including her. This big lump sum of money apparently came from Leslie Wexner. So Jeffy, he had to pay back that lump sum of millions of dollars. And the allegation in this lawsuit is that the money that he raised to pay back came from the abuse of children. The abuse including these giving up substances, the abuse including these large FO type of parties. And she's saying that the kids were basically given substances, in order to make up that money that was paid out for that settlement. And the settlement, if you'll remember, she says, was paid because of the original type of behavior, which was exactly the same. I'm sorry that I have to talk like this, but like, it has become very clear to me that I really am not allowed to say very much. So y'all are going to have to just read this yourself. It says the decades of abuse and bleep assaults were actually to the benefit, entertainment, and economic enrichment of the corporations, as well as facilitated in whatever capacities by the corporations, their managers and personnel, as by any person named as defendant. So this kind of sounds similar to allegations made in the Lil Rod lawsuit. Again, P. Diddy is not mentioned in this particular lawsuit we're looking at right now, but it's just all kind of starting to seem more believable because there's a lot of people who are credible making similar allegations about things like this going on in the industry, in Hollywood, in the music industry. And it's like, I don't not believe it. Like, you know what I mean? But this has been dismissed as frivolous. It says over the course of 30 years, at least since 1988 or 1989, the defendants conspired to unlawfully surveil. Now, this is another one that Cassie mentioned in her lawsuit. Again, this doesn't mention P. Diddy, but it's just music industry in general. I'm starting to realize stuff's normal over there that's not normal out here. And there is a lot of attention in all these lawsuits paid to the gang stalking. The enterprise will find you. They will track you down. And I do believe that they have mentioned before, the Nation of Islam and their connections with the LAPD and, Fahim Muhammad. Right there, the web is webbing and it's all intertwined. Now, could this person right here, like I said, just be out of her damn mind? Absolutely. Could she be a schizophrenic hallucinating that some shit that never happened? Certainly. Could some of this stuff be true, but the large majority of it's not true? Absolutely. I just want to keep being very clear. I wasn't there. I don't know. And I'm not really that abreast to what goes on in the industry, particularly way back in 1988, 1989. Girl, I was not even born. So I cannot purport to say that any of this actually happened. But what I can say is I don't have that hard of a time believing some of it. They would conspire to unlawfully surveil, give substances, and abduct for S assault, S fficking, and other exploitative abuse around the world, specifically throughout the Southern District of New York. This action is entered into the Southern District of New York as it is one jurisdiction in which the defendants abducted Charlene, plaintiff number 1, at approximately age 13 to assault and exploit bleep for financial gain. The defendants Harvey Weinstein, Sean Carter, Jeffy, represented as the 1953 Trust, conspired together. So this Jay-Z, Jeffy, and Weinstein conspired together and with the other defendants to illegally transact a purchase agreement, giving them ownership of plaintiff 1 while she was a minor child residing in the state of Illinois at approximately age 5 or 6 years old in the custody of her parents, with the intent of committing criminal acts against her as throughout the course of her entire adult life. Okay, hold on, because she said she was 13 up here. Oh, okay, no. Okay, she said at approximately the age of 13, she was assaulted in Southern District of New York. But it says way back when these Weinstein, Jeffy, and Jay-Z, she says, conspired to purchase her. That's interesting because this other guy's lawsuit, let me just pull it up. He said they were trying to use him for slavery. Let me pull it up. This is that other lawsuit, which was also dismissed, the one that I have a video coming back out on later after I take out that one part. It says he's seeking damage because he feels like he was being harassed. So that kind of lines up with the surveillance. At the time I was homeless, I was made famous and used, and oppression used in lyrics and song, delete of memory, used by many of his peers for song. I was being exploited, embarrassed me, bodily waste discharged. Then he says, now I'm being marginalized and social. Now I'm being blackballed, psychological brainwash. I was called stupid and R-word by the person Jay-Z. Vulgar language to describe me used for slavery. Again, both of these lawsuits have been dismissed as frivolous. All I'm doing is reading lawsuits and noticing patterns, y'all. People lie in lawsuits every damn day on every side of things, all right? I think obviously this man is not fully, I don't know. Maybe he's just illiterate and he's just as smart as the next person. And that's the thing too. I mean, just because somebody don't know how to spell or don't know how to write, stuff gets held against them. But again, dismissed. I'm just noticing patterns. Okay. So let me pull up Miss Latham's lawsuit again. So they tried to buy her, is what she's saying. And they committed criminal bleep acts against her as a child and throughout the course of her entire adult life as well. She says, the defendants at no time communicated with or received permission from the parents, the biological parents of Charlene, to purchase plaintiff or otherwise take possession of her at any time as a minor child. Over the course of at least 30 years and longer, the defendants conspired to surveil or stalk plaintiff one, that's Charlene, and the other one, Tracy, in order to track the female plaintiffs with the intent to commit various S acts against them. Defendant 1, 2, and 3, so that would be Jeffy, Weinstein, and Jay-Z, at no time communicated with or received permission from the parents to purchase this child, which I don't think even if your parents give you permission, you're allowed to just sell your child. Y'all. I mean, I don't think this person has a very good legal argument here, because the legal argument should have just been selling children is illegal. But over the course of at least 30 years and longer, they conspired with various parties and corporations named as the defendants to stalk them, to drug them, to abduct them, to beep them to various events known as S parties. But now, we might call them FOs. Hosted by Jeffy around the world for abuse by elite, high-profile, wealthy purveyors held at all of Defendant One's properties, that's Jeffy, including the United States and Virgin Islands, with the intention of committing crimes against the plaintiff. I will say, so far, comparatively to that other case that we read, the one that I will be putting right back up very soon, compared to that one, this one seems more like an actual lawsuit, like she actually typed it out and stuff like that. It says at the age of 13, Plaintiff 1, Charlene, was in the state of Missouri, given substances and picked to be abused at an event in Manhattan, New York, by the conspiring defendants. So now she's giving addresses, and I'm probably going to blur out this address because of what happened to my last video. So then it says, at this property owned by Jeffy, Charlene was assaulted by various parties in attendance, specifically Weinstein and Jay-Z. She says this happened to her when she was 13 years old at a party in New York. The defendants 2 and 3, that's Jay-Z and Weinstein, willfully and forcibly R-word plaintiff number 1, that's Charlene, and committed lewd and sexual acts against and upon her without any consent of any plaintiffs at this event held in the Manhattan property. She's saying Weinstein and Jay-Z together both are her, and she was 13 years old. The plaintiffs were repeatedly stalked, placed under unlawful surveillance, given substances, abducted, and bleeped for abuse and exploitation at regular intervals over the course of more than 20 years after the event happened whenever she was 13 years old in New York. This is all according to her. I'm just reading a lawsuit, okay? It's been dismissed as frivolous. Jeffy conspired with Weinstein and Jay-Z to initiate a system of stalking, surveillance, giving the substances, and kidnapping, and trying to physically control, abuse, and financially exploit and extort Charlene. This conspiracy was in retaliation for settling a multi-million-dollar lawsuit out of court with Plaintiff 3's mother. And this is the settlement they allegedly reached back in the 80s. Remember, the whole theory of the case is that this family, these Lathams, they were going to perhaps sue, or maybe they threatened to sue for the of this child and their children. The theory of the case is that these wealthy and powerful people just paid them off and said, here, let's settle out of court. But Charlene is saying, yeah, they did that. And then they went ahead and recouped their money by literally us, abusing us, and getting their money's back worth, because they would give us substances. It was a very elaborate system of it. And Charlene is even given addresses. She's given names. She's given specific addresses of where stuff happened. And so I don't know. I mean, to me, it does seem like at least some of this stuff, it makes it a little bit more credible, a little bit more believable, in my opinion, than that other lawsuit that we read yesterday. And y'all, there's a lot of these. And I'm going to read every single one of them now because, it seems like somebody doesn't want me to. So That's the best way to get me to do it. Ask Lima Yevrimovich. She knows all about it. Okay. So she's saying this alleged conspiracy was in revenge retaliation for settling a multi-million-dollar lawsuit out of court with Plaintiff 3's mother for Jeffy's crime of Plaintiff 1 and several of her siblings aboard the Low Express. So this is Jeffy's plane, a private jet with the currently deregistered tail number. So she even includes the tail number. And on his island, the privately owned Little St. James Island in the late 1980s, early 1990s, after being entrusted with the unsupervised care of the children. Charlene says that she was on the plane and she was on an island. The defendant's conspiracy to operate this criminal enterprise targeting the plaintiffs spanned the entire nation of the United States, anywhere the plaintiffs traveled or resided. The system of stalking, giving substances, fficking involved a complex, sophisticated criminal network established among and in tandem with all of the defendants to track Plaintiff 1 for their abuse, exploitation, entertainment, and criminal intentions of racketeering, extortion, and crimes. The complex network of the criminal enterprise targeting the plaintiff involved the defendants compensating the co-conspirator defendants for their crimes of stalking, giving the substances, abducting, and Plaintiff number 1 at the behest of Jay-Z, Jeffy, and Wine. And it was through the use of various business transactions, including but not limited to offering and facilitating employment contracts, lucrative partnership contracts such as record deals, fashion industry ventures, and other assorted goods and services such as company perks like luxury cars, housing, real estate gifts, and large sums of cash disguised as record advances. Oh my God. I didn't notice this before. Oh, this is another thing that gives this one a little bit more credibility than the last lawsuit. Again, has been dismissed as frivolous, but this does sound like what Little Rod said. And Little Rod and Cassie's allegations are becoming more credible as we see more and more evidence coming out. And I think that stuff's coming from the feds. But this allegation is they had a complex network and people were playing along. The reason people were playing along is because they were being offered employment contracts, record deals, fashion ventures. So they were playing along because they wanted to level up. Lil Rod said that he was offered a Grammy, if he would enter into a physical relationship with Diddy and his accomplices. Again, this is not a Diddy lawsuit. This is Jay-Z, Jeffy, and Weinstein. But I did read one with Diddy in it yesterday that had Jay-Z, which will be coming back up later. The defendants engaged in intentional tortious interference, holding of the offspring of plaintiff number 3, specifically Charlene. So Charlene is saying she was held, she was purchased as a child, abused as a child and as an adult, and at times was unable to leave. Well, that might have seemed frivolous 2, 3, 4 years ago. But now that I've seen that footage, watching P. Diddy, one of Jay-Z's friends, snatching a woman up by the damn ponytail and kicking her in the spleen when she tried to leave, I actually don't have that hard of a time believing that maybe this did happen to somebody sometime, somewhere. Again, this is different people. Innocent until proven guilty. The lawsuit has been dismissed. Just things to think about. And then also, Lil Rod is saying that this is the way that P. Diddy would do it too, where it would be like you're getting a record advance, but really it's just a huge slush fund to do whatever you want with it. These are allegations, okay? This isn't my allegation. Okay. The defendants engaged in intentional tortious interference, kidnapping and holding the offspring of plaintiff 3, that's Charlene, routinely hiring defendants to stalk and illegally surveil the plaintiffs and interact with plaintiff number 1 under the disguise of befriending her or having romantic or business interest in any of the plaintiffs so that they could use the false relationship to facilitate exploitation, hostage taking, and abuse targeting the aforementioned plaintiffs. The deception to commit tortious interference was done regularly to allow defendants ease of access to the plaintiff's private life and spaces when plaintiff number 3 began violently demanding that they stop their harassment. Tracy was made aware of defendants' activities by numerous witnesses who refused to participate in the criminal operations after being solicited for hire to partake in the operations and receive very lucrative compensation packages, including large sums of cash and high-profile entertainment contracts such as high-visibility marketing and promotion opportunities. When informed of the conspiracy targeting her and her minor children, Tracy took numerous and repeated actions to demand that the defendants cease and desist all of their conduct. Jeffy, Jay-Z, and Weinstein engaged in establishing a thorough network of criminal operatives to facilitate their enterprise of spying, unlawful surveillance, breaking and entering, tortious interference, numerous S assaults, S battery, financial exploitation, physical abuse, emotional harm, psychological torture, S harassment, lewd conduct, kidnapping, human fficking, and extreme abuses for decades. Okay. They established a thorough network of criminal operatives to facilitate all of that stuff, allegedly. The criminal enterprise orchestrated by the defendants escalated beyond the S assault, abuse, harassment, and emotional harm into the intense and extensive financial exploitation of the plaintiffs and their offspring. They repeatedly abused and took hostage children of these plaintiffs and caused them emotional harm, caused financial damages in the course of regaining possession of the children. Lucrative career contracts in professional sports, entertainment, and other industries were forfeited in exchange for or as a consequence of redressing the crimes. So what she's alleging is that lucrative career contracts in sports were used as a bargaining tool. So it's like, you can be on this team, you can get this paid this money if you participate in the scheme, or if you don't, you could lose your job in sports and entertainment. That's kind of what she's alleging, which I don't know if that happened in this case, but I do think that does happen from time to time in Hollywood and in the industry. I mean, I saw it. I actually saw it happen with Janoris Jenkins. Now, they weren't trying to get him to participate in an S scheme. They were trying to get him whenever he was signing with the was it the Ravens at first? No, it was whatever one of the teams Jeff Fisher was coaching. But he was about to sign his NFL contract, and the coach, Jeff Fisher, wanted to force him to let Lou Taylor manage his money. Lou Taylor was managing at the time, I think, Meta World Peace's money, Britney Spears, maybe some other people. And Janoris Jenkins was like, no, but it was a contingency contract. They tried to make it to where he couldn't play on the team unless he let Lou Taylor manage all his millions of dollars. So I do know that that is how this industry works. Now, do I know for a fact that they do exactly the same thing if you won't participate in an S-tracking scheme versus do? I'm pretty sure they don't include that in the contracts, y'all. I'm pretty sure they don't. But I could see it. That's the thing. If I would have read this lawsuit in 2020, I would have been like, oh my God, y'all, get this girl, conservatorship or jail, like she's out of her damn mind. But I actually think a lot of this stuff seems like fairly believable. Again, innocent till proven guilty. It's not that I'm saying they did it. I'm not speculating that they definitely did, but it's not unbelievable. You know what I mean? It's almost like maybe it should have gone to trial. Maybe at least somebody should have had to respond to this because no one had to. The defendants orchestrated a criminal enterprise valued at billions of dollars by the fficking and economic exploitation of the plaintiffs, for which the trade secret thefts and related business and intellectual property crimes played a significant role in the profitability of the criminal enterprise. And that's what this other guy said too. He said they used him in songs. They used him for songs. They used him for art. They took his art. It's almost like something's going on that we don't exactly know about. But the guy's saying they wiped his memory and they brainwashed him. And now this lady is saying they used her trade secrets. I mean, is it just all the crazy people in the world are making the same type of allegations? It's possible. It's possible that's a symptom of the disorder, girl. I don't know. Defendants began stalking and surveilling the plaintiff, number one, that's Charlene, as a child to misappropriate trade secrets, intellectual property, and other business and creative works of the plaintiffs over the course of at least 3 decades with no intention. So basically they started targeting her, the child, because they wanted to really get to the intellectual property of the parents. So I wonder if the parents are songwriters or artists or something. I just don't know what she could mean by that. And they did it for decades without stopping, despite repeatedly being told and asked and demanded to stop. This financial exploitation became very lucrative for the defendants, where hundreds of millions and billions of dollars have been collected and earned worldwide by the defendants through their decades of exploiting the plaintiff's creative and intellectual abilities while under the intense or constant surveillance of the defendants, who used audio, visual, and conspiring to befriend, date the plaintiffs, and collect private information or trade secrets. So she's saying, Charlene is saying, people were dating me, pretending to be my partner, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, whatever. And the whole purpose was to get to basically gather evidence on my parents, who this enterprise had a bone to pick with them because my parents had threatened to sue them and had gotten a lot of money from them in a settlement back in the 80s, 90s. Again, this could be complete fabrication. This could be complete fantasy. I don't know. I'm just reading the lawsuit, y'all. Charlene is seeking civil redress in a separate complaint and jurisdiction for the extensive trade secret infringement, economic espionage, economic terrorism, and assorted extreme financial exploitation and abuses committed by the defendants. Plaintiffs have only mentioned the defendants' worldwide abuse and unlawful use of trade secrets and the development of worldwide marketing of numerous high-profile singers, rappers, entertainers, and entertainment projects, including but not limited to musical albums, music videos, television shows. In this action, we've only mentioned all that to provide the scope of the abuse endured when the defendants were unable to give the substances of kidnap for repeated or hold hostage for ransom by the defendants in their criminal enterprise. This action, captioned in the header, filed in the Southern District of New York, is specifically redressing decades of S crimes, targeting the plaintiffs and their offspring. And the plaintiffs were able to prevent the forced substances of for S assaults against the plaintiff as a minor child and well into her adulthoods. So when the plaintiffs were able to stop this alleged criminal enterprise from conducting and using for S assault, etc., the defendants responded by engaging in extreme forms of harassment that they conspired with the other defendants to initiate or facilitate. What type of extreme harassment is she talking about, though? Well, she does go on to say S assaults, side, S harassment, verbal abuse, psychological torture, harassment such as gaslighting, and paying defendants to collect S data or other S explicit content featuring the plaintiffs by engaging in S acts that would be classified as S battery in various jurisdictions on hidden cameras. This person is accusing Jay-Z, Jeffy, and Weinstein of compromising footage on hidden cameras. The harassment includes creating, oh my God, this word, where the plaintiff were recorded in various states of undress as minors, private spaces, and then given substances and ficked aboard the private jet owned by Jeffy, as well as other spaces for S assault. They were being presented as child beep to the clients. Now, this reminds me of Mark Laita, and I do just want to point out, Mark Laita advertises through the use of his channel Soft White Underbelly the same type of child. This word right here. That's what he calls them. But it really shouldn't be called that. It should be called a victim. Charlene submits this statement of the case to obtain justice, to disrupt the defendant's ongoing actions, to obstruct such justice while retaining and or generating profits collected from the abuse of the plaintiffs as outlined above and throughout the detailed formal complaint pending submission into the case record by all deceiving parties. Defendants' attempt at hiding all involvement in their sophisticated scheme of operating a criminal enterprise of human fficking and trade secret theft has been ongoing for more than 30 years, and the ongoing criminal conduct indicates the defendants' spirited refusal to stop the conduct and their interest in continuing to enjoy the lavish profits from the criminal enterprise that they report to the public and government as legitimate income, business operations, and or financial economic gains. So what she's saying is these people are making money by abusing children, okay? In all of the most heinous ways you can imagine. And they're covering it up. It's laundering, basically. They're pretending like they're making money legitimately through business operations, but really they're selling children to elite people. Now, is this true? Did this really happen to Charlene? Girl, I don't know. The judge dismissed it as frivolous, but it doesn't seem that unbelievable. I mean, parts of this seem unbelievable, but it does beg the question. Let's say we travel to a dimension right now. Let's do it in our imagination real quick, where there is this going on. Let's just say we travel to a dimension. Here we are right here for the next couple minutes. We're just going to play pretend like we live in a dimension where Jeffy, Harvey, and Jay-Z actually are doing this stuff. And they actually are promising people a halftime show at the Super Bowl or a record deal or a Grammy or whatever in order to facilitate this ongoing scheme. Let's just say we live in that dimension. I'm not saying we live there. I'm just saying let's just pretend, okay, for the thought exercise. Let's say we did. And let's say any of those victims wanted to come forward and report it and just, on its face say what happened to them. It may look something like this in that dimension. And then what? The lawsuit gets dismissed, no justice. What would you do? How could you possibly get justice in a case like this? If that was happening. I'm not saying it was. This case was dismissed. But knowing now what we know today, let's just say we lived in a dimension where that was going on. How could you report it and not sound crazy? It's just things to think about. I'm just wondering how you would report it without sounding crazy if it did happen. You know what I mean? Because this, I guess it didn't happen. I don't know. for the reason outlined, which she's suing for $500 million, which is a lot of money. What she also wants is the court to order a permanent cease and desist restraining order to be issued against all the defendants, basically to make them stop doing the stuff they're doing. Permanent cease and desist, so they can't target this family anymore. So she's basically making it seem like her family is targeted. Cousins, brothers, mom, kids, all of them. And she's literally saying they're trying to buy the children. Like, it does seem far-fetched. It does seem far-fetched. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, like, I guess I like to have an open mind. I'm a very open-minded person. I know it hurts a lot of y'all's feelings. You can't even fathom it, but that's because I don't live in that dimension over there with y'all. I'm like one half step dimension over. Some of y'all are here with me. Hello, hey. But I know y'all don't understand how my brain works. And honestly, I really don't either. Half the stuff that comes out of my mouth is just psychic visions and downloads from the mothership. So don't listen to nothing I say. All right. There's a public document. Y'all can go download it yourself. But it does make me wonder, in light of what we know now, I mean, what we know about Jeffy, what we know about Weinstein, what we know about the industry, what's coming out on videos, it does make me wonder, like, why was this dismissed so handily? And I'm going to get into that in just a moment. I'm going to have to blur out her personal information here, but she does say to the court down here, it is requested that all communication be sent electronically, as the USPS mail delivery system has been extremely disrupted and almost inoperable in use for me to receive mail in traditional formats for the past 2.5 years. The USPS failure to deliver or process mail for more than 2 years is a separate but ongoing issue that would also make it necessary to use the ECF system. So she asks the court to deliver the communications with her about her case electronically, which they do not do, apparently. And the reason is because she's saying that she had service disruptions and things like that. I'm just going to take that part out and re-upload it. Just a totally different video. I can't look at you right there with this light on. You have to come over here. So now I've pulled up the order of dismissal. This is what it looks like. The court must dismiss a complaint that is frivolous or malicious, fails to state a claim upon which relief may be granted, or seeks monetary relief from a defendant who is immune from such relief. The court has to dismiss complaints if it lacks subject matter jurisdiction. The law mandates dismissal on any grounds the court is obliged to construe, but the court has to basically give special consideration to pro se litigants who are representing themselves who don't have a lawyer. So you have to be a little bit more lenient with those types of filings. Then they go ahead and define frivolous cases where it lacks an arguable basis in either law or fact. Now, in that last case, the one where the guy just wrote that I will be putting back up, that one seemed more frivolous to me, in my opinion. This is not legal advice. This is not anything about that. This lady gave addresses. She gave years. She gave ages. She mentioned people who literally already have criminal convictions for literally exactly these types of things. I'm talking about, the Steens and the Steins, if you know what I mean. So I'm interested to see why the court thought this was frivolous. Let's read further. Plaintiff Charlene Latham filed this complaint on her own behalf and on behalf of her parents. Okay, well, that makes sense because you can't represent people if you're not a lawyer. So the lawsuit would have to be dismissed, at least as it pertains to the mom and the dad, David and Tracy, and the other children and grandchildren, right? Like, you can represent yourself in court, but you cannot represent your parents and your any future children and all that if you're not a lawyer. Plaintiff alleges that Jeffy initiated the events giving rise to the complaint. She accuses the defendants and hundreds of unidentified defendants of establishing a lucrative but sociopathic criminal enterprise, engaging in decades of human trafficking, sexual assaults, and various abuses, including financial and economic exploitation, abduction, etc. She alleges the defendants engaged in harassment, physical torture, extortion, revenge targeting because her mother refused to sell her to the defendants. She further alleges that the defendants gave substances to, children for trafficking, hostage taking, and related abuse, and began exploiting plaintiff for thefts of trade secrets, intellectual property, and tortious interference. Plaintiff's claims rise to the level of the irrational, and there's no legal theory on which she can rely. Well, is the judge going to tell us what's irrational about it? And we're not going to let her amend it? The defects in her complaint cannot be cured with an amendment? So this is my question. Again, let's say we live in a dimension where they was really trying to sell the children by the children. Let's just say. I mean, because we do know for a fact that there's people out there that do that, right? Child traders. I'm not saying these people are, but I was hoping that the judge would give a little bit more consideration here to the fact that maybe, she gave a specific address. She gave specific names. She gave specific ages. I understand that it's probably difficult for the judge to imagine or want to believe that that could happen, but importantly, no Jay-Z, none of the Steens and the Steins were required to submit anything in this case. They weren't required to say, no, we didn't do that. They didn't even bother making them do that. The judge on their own, just like in that other case we read, which the video I'm going to put back up, just like in that case, the judge dismissed it without hearing anything else. The statutory provision governing appearances in federal court, and the really weird thing is, they didn't even tell her what exactly was wrong with the case in order for her to try and amend it. Now, importantly, she does in this case come back and say, that wasn't even my complaint. I didn't even give you the complaint. I was just trying to get a case number and, all of that. Now, that is the wrong procedure. She should have hired a lawyer, but then that raises the question. She's claiming financial exploitation. She's claiming that these people are keeping her poor on purpose. Are they? Girl, I don't know. But that's the thing. Now I'm actually concerned, because what if only 10% was true? She don't get even a chance to amend it and get justice for the 10%? This is making me feel uncomfortable, and it just makes me wonder how many other cases against powerful people have been dismissed that we don't even know about. Is any of this true? Is even one of these allegations true? If so, what do you, the people, think about this justice system that a child who was sold, abused, exploited, sold on the island, on the plane, that's how she alleges it. A lot of y'all like to hashtag believe all victims. What's going on here? She didn't even get her day in court. They dismissed it. That's all I really had for today. Many, many more of these lawsuits to come. I found a whole trove of them. In the meantime, facts ain't defamation, and neither is reading public lawsuit filings. Love you, Mina. Okay, bye.
Something right now, because I know you're watching. I will be saying everything you tried to do to me.